Let me introduce Scott Brown. He's our real estate attorney tonight with over 2 decades of experience advising investors, developers, and property owners. He brings both transactional and litigation insight, which means he's seen what works and what breaks. Scott, can you tell us more about why legal structure is important?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Brown. I've been practicing law in the state of California for 24 years, primarily as a litigator. So I only deal with things when they go south. But later on in my career, over the last probably 8 or 9 years, I've been doing a lot more transactional work. So I've been able to take that experience as a litigator and now start focusing a lot on helping avoid problems. And just wanted to briefly say that that's one of the biggest problems that people have with, whether or not to seek advice from a lawyer, is that lawyers are much better at preventive medicine than we are at curing cancer once you have it. So a lot of people are adverse to getting a lawyer until they have a problem, and that's not the time to do it. So if you're thinking about investing in real estate, it's really important that you get into a connection or a contact with a lawyer to help you structure what you're going to do before you do it. So first thing I would say to anybody who's looking to buy a property exclusively for investment is that you contact a lawyer, talk about what kind of entity that he or she might recommend that you pursue. I like limited liability companies. That is usually my preference for my clients. And the important thing is that what you want to do is when you start going into this world is that you want to separate everything that you've accumulated in your life from what you're about to do. And that limited liability company, for example, will be that demarcation between your previous life and your new life. And so a limited liability company allows you to separate your assets, everything you have, from what that business venture is going to be. And that's either if you're going to buy a property to then lease it to tenants, or you're going to buy property for the purposes of flipping. I'm not even going to talk about short-term rentals and things like that, but those two are primarily where my focus is. So a limited liability allows you to minimize your risks, allows you to basically compartmentalize the business venture from your home. And there's a lot that goes into it. Like I said, you most certainly need to get a lawyer because there's corporate formalities that you have to follow. You have to make sure your books and records are separated. You can't, buy pizza for your family out of the account for the LLC. You got to make sure that you're following all the rules in order to get the protection. In California, a limited liability company is treated like a separate person, all by themselves, as long as you treat it as a separate person. So I would definitely recommend that you do so. The next thing is, if you are an investor who's thinking about not just with respect to one property, but you're going to do multiple different properties, my recommendation, and again, I would recommend you get a lawyer that give you advice on those issues, but each property should be owned by a separate LLC. And that keeps a problem that arises with one property from then infecting multiple properties. If one goes south, you want to contain that, encapsulate that problem so that it doesn't continue to infect the other properties. If someone gets a judgment against that LLC and they're able to show that there's somehow blending or taking assets from one and using it for the other, it can then infest your entire portfolio. So I would recommend you do that prior to buying property. One thing that I often have my clients do is they'll form a limited liability that will be for the purposes of submitting purchase offers for property. And then once that escrow gets open, I'll have them open another LLC, transfer that purchase and sale agreement into that specific LLC. So if it's on Elm Street, it'll be 123 Elm Street LLC, and that will be the LLC for that property for the entirety of the time that you own it. It's also beneficial if you have investors that are going into the venture with you. You each can be membership certificate holders. You have an operating agreement that manages that property, but most certainly you should have a separate LLC or S corp or whatever your legal representation wants you to do. But you want to make sure that there's no blending of those assets, bank accounts. You want everything to be self-contained with respect to that property. LLCs also have benefit of pass-through taxation. I tell my clients that if you're going to get into business, you should have at least 5 very trusted advisors. You should have a CPA that you trust. You should have an insurance broker you trust. You should have a lawyer you trust, a real estate agent. They usually have access to great opportunities prior to everyone else finding out about them. So you should absolutely have a real estate agent that you trust. And then finally, you should have a general contractor you trust. Each one of those failures to get those things in a row can absolutely destroy a person financially. The general contractor is, I cannot emphasize this enough. I do a lot of construction defect. I represent a lot of contractors and homeowners against contractors. Get a relationship with a general contractor early. You don't want to use a normal inspector to look at a potential investment. You want a contractor who's going to walk that property before your inspection contingency is up, and it's going to be able to tell you what's involved, what they see with their own eyes, how much it's going to cost. Have a conversation with that contractor as to what you envision doing, and that you have that information going in before the contingency period is up. And that means if you're interested in flipping it, you want to know what's going to be involved to do it, what are potential issues you're going to have. A trained eye is going to see those things, and they're going to call it out. Unfortunately, a lot of the inspection companies out there, they seem to adverse from liability. So you want to have a contractor. There's no requirement that you actually use a inspection company. You can use a contractor to do that. And then once you do close on the property, I can't stress this enough, use a licensed contractor. Don't try to do the work yourself. I've dealt with a lot of problems where investors will buy a piece of property for flipping. They intend to do the work themselves. They do it as an owner builder, but there are requirements in Los Angeles where if you're going to be an owner builder, you have to follow the requirement. One of them is that you have to live there for 12 months. And a lot of people don't. So you want to make sure you're hiring licensed contractors. You want to make sure you have that warranty benefit of the contractor's work. It's transferred to the new owner that buys the property. You want to make sure that contractor, check them out on the CSLB, ask for referrals, see their work that they've done in the past, and make sure that they're qualified for what you need them to do. But don't wait too long. Don't look at a property, put an offer down, close escrow, and then go ask a contractor. You want to know as early as possible about what it's going to cost for what you intend to do with the property. We talked about the past benefits of tax benefits of LLCs. Get a CPA. I'm not a tax professional, but there are some benefits to having a limited liability company. You want to make sure you keep all your receipts. You want to make sure for capital gains purposes, everything that you do, you want to make sure you keep copies of those records. You have a CPA that's checking your six, so to speak, and make sure that you're following the rules necessary to take those proper deductions. And then with pass-through taxation, it's an individual obligation, so you're not paying taxes on it twice. Uh, the contractor relationship, make sure that they are, they have appropriate levels of coverage. Workers' compensation is something you absolutely want to make sure that the contractor is not claimed exempt with the CSLB. So if they do and they have workers on the property and somebody gets hurt, that's going to be potentially on you if a labor gets hurt on the property and they're not covered under workers' comp. So make sure that you get an insurance certificate naming you as an additional insured before work is done. Make sure that the workers' compensation is up to date. Ask for verification that each one of the laborers that are going to be working on the property are covered under their workers' compensation. And it's not just to, protect you while you own the property. It's going to protect you after you sell it. You want to be able to point to the general contractor that they're responsible for the problems that have arisen, and it's not you as the seller. Limited liability companies offer you some privacy. Oftentimes people don't want to have their personal name on title for obvious reasons. If someone did an asset search on you or what have you, you don't want them to automatically know that this property is yours. Some people don't want that to happen. There are some disclosure obligations in California. I have some clients that open up a Delaware LLC, which do not have those requirements of disclosure of who owns the business. And then that LLC owns the membership interest in California LLC. So your expert can help you, or excuse me, your lawyer can help you structure it in a way if privacy is something that you is important to you. So just in closing, as I said before, don't wait until you have property, make sure you get it, you get in touch with a lawyer prior to venturing into this what can be a very difficult arena, especially for the uninitiated. So go to a lawyer before you start, not after a problem arises.